For instance, I give you an example, bovine growth hormone, just a case study. Bovine growth hormone is a hormone that you inject into a cow and it produces more milk. Now, the farmer looks at it, wonderful, my one cow can produce so much more milk. You know, I make more money. But that's not the end. This cow that's producing more milk, its udders become bigger, which means it gets mastitis. Now, which means that it gets infected because its udders have become bigger. So that means there's now pus in the milk. Now, to solve that problem, you give this cow antibiotics. So there's now a lot of antibiotics in the milk. So when you, the final consumer, drinks it, you're drinking milk that has pus and milk that has antibiotics. Now, when you get sick with a bacterial disease and you take antibiotic medicines to cure that, it will not work because the bacteria in your body is already now used to a certain level of antibiotics, and then they adapt. So now, so what I'm trying to point out is there's the part in the lab that's wonderful, especially when you just think about just money. Then there's the secondary factors that affect the final consumers. And these companies, and like I said, lots of countries have taken steps to rigorously protect their citizens from this. For instance, Russia has declared Monsanto and all these other companies as terrorist companies and will be treated as such. They're liable to fines and imprisonment anybody that's selling those products in their country. Netherlands recently, last month, banned the use of glyphosate, which the World Health Organization came out a month ago and said is carcinogenic. 10 years, for about 10 years now, independent scientists have been saying this, but they always, you know, make excuses, just like the cigarettes, just like the smoking industry, the tobacco industry for a long time. They actually just took a page out of the playbook where the tobacco industry knew that it was linked to cancer, but played it down consistently. When scientists came out and said it, they attacked those scientists until the evidence was so overwhelming and they finally accepted it. And today now, it's on your cigarette pack. This is linked to cancer. Well, so many scientists lost their jobs because of that. So many whistleblowers lost their jobs. So we have to understand the history associated with these companies that are lobbying. Then we also understand NABDA and its creation. NABDA should be it should be looking out for the interest of Nigerians. It should not be the spokesperson for multinational companies. Nigeria does not have the infrastructure scientifically or health-wise to even be able to understand the science behind this, right? And more importantly, our soil is so rich. There is no reason why we should be going to this. It's a fallacy to think that you need biotechnology to feed your population. The president of...
So as you go on,
go ahead.
That's the agency that has been created.
Yes.
So
Yes.
That's National
Biotechnology
Safety Agency.
Yes,
okay, so
agency.
when people hear, they don't think it's NAFDAC, but it's...
No, sorry, NABDA.
NAFDA, that's the agency for biosafety. Please go ahead.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is we need, first, the fallacy of you needing biotechnology to feed people. Like I said, I'll read you a quote from the president of Gambia in his speech this year to the National Assembly for 2015 legislative year. He said, "We'll never accept GM food. I must emphasize here that despite our obsession with becoming a major food exporter after 2016, we'll never accept genetically modified organisms in our agriculture. The Gambia is strictly maintaining organic agriculture for both our consumption and export." And it is worth noting that they are now net exporters. They are food sufficient now. If you look at farming, the way it's practiced in Nigeria, you realize there are smallholder farmers that feed this nation. They do this without subsidies that their counterparts in Europe and America get. They do this without the extension service that their counterparts in America and Europe get. They don't have access to soft loans. The minister will say that there are all this money purportedly set aside for agriculture, but you talk to farmers, which I have been doing, and you find that you go to the bank and the bank asks them for landed properties in Lagos Island or some ridiculous thing where you know that these farmers don't have that. We're supposed to support them and help them. And then most importantly, logistic systems and storage systems to get food transported from the farms to where it is needed. That is what, once we can achieve that, There's no need to photocopy American systems and bring it to Nigeria. We are not the same. So,
you know, you do have a problem with biosafety when it comes to biotechnology when it comes to agriculture. Do you have it with any other aspects?
No, I don't.
What do you? But do you think that it would be good, helpful in one aspect and not the other? Because statistics say, as of 2011, 11 different transgenic crops were grown commercially in 395 million acres in 29 countries.
Yeah.
We're talking the US, Brazil, Argentina, India. That seems to have a lot of similarity to us. Canada, China, Paraguay, Pakistan, South Africa, Uruguay, Bolivia, Australia, Philippines, Burkina Faso, Mexico, and Spain.
Yeah.
So, I mean, these are countries that have adopted it. And we're talking as far back as 2010, 2011. And researching, they say they don't know any after effects of what these crops might do, but not sure of the long-term effects.
Okay.
So now, don't you think that somehow there's something good about biotechnology in agriculture?
Okay. Let me read to you. In 1992, that's when the GMO thing started. This is from a speech that the US rep on the Senate floor said. He said, in 1992, the Food and Drug Administration decided that genetically modified organisms are the functional equivalent of conventional foods. They arrived at this decision without testing GMOs for allergenicity, toxicity, or antibiotic resistance and functional characteristics. As a result, millions of acres of GMO crops were planted. The GMO, the FDA has received over 1 million comments from citizens demanding labeling of GMOs. 9% of Americans agree, so why no labeling? I'll give you one reason: the influence and corruption of the political process by Monsanto. But taking it back to your point of these countries you mentioned, I tell you about Argentina. Argentina, where is supposed to be a poster child for GMO technology, and you find that in areas where GMOs are planted, the crops are grown, and these include birth defects and a high incidence of child cancer caused by glyphosate, a herbicide sprayed on GMO crops marketed by Monsanto. 80% of children have the toxin in their bloodstream. This was a report released by the board of doctors in Argentina. In Mexico, they're suing Monsanto because of contamination. Contamination exists when...
Are we working with Monsanto?
Yes. Monsanto is a partner with NAFTA. And all of them is the same technological process. And I can go through each of the countries you've mentioned and tell you about the problems. For instance, India, there was something branded the GMO genocide. Prince Charles has spoken about it. Several people have spoken about it, where farmers were committing suicide. Why were they doing this? Because the promised yield of Monsanto for those crops fell below their expectations. And they are taking debts based on this bumper harvest we're expecting. And they just started committing suicide because their crops failed. Pests became resistant. Weeds became resistant. So now Monsanto will tell you need more herbicide. You need more chemicals. And they could not afford it. So this is something that's available everywhere, where for a fact, a lot of Indian farmers committed suicide because of failure of their crops. Okay. And like I said, I can go to each of those countries you mentioned.
Okay, now, the Biosafety Act does promise to take care of our interest as Nigerians, but don't you think that will go a long way in checking the kind of partnership or the outcome of the partnership we might have with these companies?
I think that, one, if we understand this technology, it's produced by a chemical company that wants to sell pesticide. They modify a seed so that it can stand lethal dosage of this same pesticide that a natural variety will not be able to stand. So this goes hand in hand. Then there are health concerns regarding this pesticide use. There are health concerns regarding the consumption of these foods. The fact of the matter, if anybody has lived in America or in England, you know for a fact that organic, natural foods sell far more, have more value than GMOs.
True.
Nigeria can be a net exporter of organic foods because this is in high demand. McDonald's last week or 2 weeks ago is closing 700 of its branches. Chipotle, on the other hand, announced that they're cutting out all GMO from their menu in America. And you find that the reason why this technology is so far-fetched is not from the farmers. It's because they go from the top up to the Senate and push these laws down people's throats. So you find that they're embroiled in cases in all the countries you've mentioned. Law cases in Mexico, people are taking them to court.
Let's look at what is on screen. A National Biosafety Authority will be established to regulate genetically modified organism activities in the country. Now, do you not trust in that, to establish a transparent and predictable process for reviewing and making decisions on the transfer, handling and use of genetically modified organisms and related activities?
I don't believe that, because they're copying the basic model that's happening in America, where the FDA is supposed to be guarding the safety and the well-being of Americans, but it's not doing that. The FDA will tell you that it's the biotech companies that are supposed to guard the safety. Biotech companies tell you that it's the FDA that's supposed to guard the safety. I have quotes that I can actually read to you from these people, right? So the fact of the matter is, this is business. NABDA is a creation that is business to facilitate this. There are workshops, 3-year workshops all over Africa to do the same thing that happens in South America, same thing that's happening in America. Americans today are fighting to know that their food contains GMO. They're fighting for labeling. Where they vote and win the labeling fight, Monsanto and these companies sued the state against labeling. Now, if you're so proud of what you're doing and what is so good, why don't you label it?
Of course, which is a major component of the law we have about certain things that must be done for genetic modified. I mean, it's such a long document about certain things and precautions in certain areas that must be taken. And tell me something about, I've been searching for, I just somehow lost the part about contract award in terms of the process, how the contracts are awarded. Is there some transparency in exactly how this is done? Are you satisfied that, fact is that the law is here now, so you have to work around it to be sure that it doesn't get, we get the best out of it. Tell me what you think about the contract. How transparent is it in terms of...
You see, if we put 2 seeds of corn here, natural variety, GMO, you can't tell the difference. You can only tell the difference in a lab. Now, Nigeria is getting to something where they don't even have the scientific infrastructure to know independently whether this is good for us or not. I should be hearing that the national NABDA is going to do a 10-year test on the consumption of these things. We'll look into the science and all the research that has gone into, because a lot of science has gone into it. Research by independent scientists will look into it and say, okay, all these independent scientists that are saying this thing causes cancer, let us do an independent research to see if it's true. That's what I should be hearing. I should be hearing that the template that Russia, Germany, Japan, France, Italy are using is something that we are looking at and saying, okay, how can we protect? Now that should be protecting us from illegally importing genetically modified organisms, as far as I'm concerned. And that's not the case. So what I'm trying to point out is this. This system is built to facilitate Monsanto coming in. It's not built to act as a net or a framework to protect Nigerians. It's about profit first, and then whatever health risk comes later. And this is linked, this consuming these foods, like I said, World Health Organization has labeled it carcinogenic. It's been linked to organ failure.
Is it for every crop? Because I know a number of achievements have been made. I mean, even the increases the shelf life of vegetables and fruits and the rest of them. So is it for every stride, progressive stride that they have made when it comes to genetically produced food that is unhealthy?
Okay, I'm going to answer this way. Our president, our senator, our minister of agriculture, when he is sick, he goes for checkup in America. The same does not happen in America. They don't leave their country. Our healthcare, if your president cannot get good healthcare in Nigeria, what do you think what hope is there for the common man? Now, for there to be even a hint of all these diseases linked to this technology, and you know what your healthcare system is, you know what your institutional system is in terms of schools, universities, you know what the graduate that's coming out of a school that studied science in Nigeria is capable of. You don't try to fly before you walk. We are still crawling. Get your healthcare system. If you want to invest in things, get your healthcare system up. Get your scientific institutions up to be world class. Then on your own terms, independently pursue this.
So do you think that we're just crying wolf? Because think about it. Funding will be a problem.
Funding will not be a problem. Do you know why? Because you just have to look at case studies from all around the world.
A press release was made by the same agency. They're not properly funded. So making giant progressive strides is a problem.
No, because they are not going to do it themselves. They will be handed seeds that are genetically modified and they will plant it. They are just surrogates.
There are two aspects now.
Okay, go ahead.
The seeds that are imported and the homegrown one.
Okay. I'll give you an example. BT cowpea, that the Minister of Agriculture, I debated with the Minister of Agriculture. He said that there is no GMO in the country. I showed evidence that there is BT cowpea in Nigeria. BT cowpea was made with Monsanto and an Australian biotech company in Australia. Then they took it to Zaria and we're testing it there. So our technology institutions are merely surrogates. They are not doing any innovative research there. There is no investment there to do innovative research, this is why I say all of this is just a scam.
Well, tell about this advantage, because it's good you mentioned the cowpea thing, because one of the Minister of Agriculture talked about that together with cassava. They're also working on cassava too. One of Nigeria's major staple foods, together with thinking of exporting also to, looking at the areas they can expand what cassava is done in Nigeria. There's an argument that in South America is also put to several other uses. Do you think this sort of technology will not allow us open different options in terms of knowing what to do with cassava, for example?
Okay. Like I said, let me talk about this from the biodiversity angle. When you take, all of us here have individual fingerprints. If a disease were to come into this place, there's chances that we will not all be wiped out because we all have independent genetics, right? But when you clone people and you clone things, one disease can wipe things out, which is what scientific companies now talk about and say, oh wow, we have this epidemic, we have this problem. But the problem is also self-serving, because you have created something, you're cloning it, you claim patent rights on it. So for instance, you come now into this country and now the seed belongs to you. Our farmer cannot save that seed at the end of the year and plant it again. No, he has to come back to this company and buy seeds again. So now we have commoditized a primary input of production. Every year, our farmers will have to go back. Now, you are opening smallholder farmers to fluctuations of the dollar. Last year, I was buying dollars at 160. Today, it's 220. In India, where this happened, like you rightly said, with BT cotton, farmers had to be buying these seeds every year. And you're paying 1,000 times what you were paying before because your seeds were free. So now, there's that aspect of capital flight as well, because these are funds that are going out of the economy. And then you talk about exports. And I say the whole of the EU has strong rules against this kind of organisms. So you'll be dealing with America and Canada, which really need biofuel because they're already overproducing food. So you find that your good lands and nice lands are planted with things that you're not going to eat. It's going to be exported for biofuel. So when it comes back to things of eating our food and everything, we'll just end up like Zimbabwe, where most of their good land was planted with tobacco, and then they were having farming there, and people were reduced to eating bark before Mugabe started shouting. So we have to look past our nose in this country. We're too myopic. We're one of the biggest oil exporters, and then we're importing fuel that we actually need. People are queuing on the roads today. It doesn't make sense. There are countries like Congo and a number of others that are exporting organic foods, and they are making a killing out of it. Because for that one pineapple, people are willing to pay times 4 what they are paying in America for a genetically modified organism. Okay, now, I'm not knocking organic food. I'm all for organic. But let me play the devil's advocate here. Let's say we do explore biotechnology. But we're not buying the seeds from any other place, but there's some funding in here. Do you think they'll be able to pay attention to what matters? We'll be able to have a healthy
seeds, whatever we're crossing will be healthy. Do you think that is an option for us in the near future?
I believe first and foremost, the main problem in this conversation at the moment as it is in Nigeria is that NAFDA is already a corrupted institution. It's not looking out for the welfare of Nigerians. It's looking out for the welfare of the big biotech companies. Now, let's leave that aside. Biotechnology is a fascinating field. There are many things that can be done with biotechnology. Now, the important thing is that it is done with the interest of the citizens at heart. You can only achieve that when you independently get to the level of your institutions being scientifically on par with the rest of the world. You cannot be like that and then be depending on other people to tell you that this is safe or this is not safe. Because then you get all the negativity that comes with it. Because if you have the technology to independently assess things yourself, you go through that process differently. Why? Because you're not looking for return on investment. You're not a chemical company that's put so much money in research and development and all you want to do is sell, sell, sell. Your main interest is, okay, how can I make the lives of Nigerians better?
All right. Before we let you even go yet, okay. We know definitely there's a lot of problem in terms of capacity, having laboratories and all of that. Talk about the appointment of the DG and board members. Tell about the transparency process there. Something that you think can be worked on.
To be honest with you, like I said, this NAFDA process has already been corrupted. For me, as far as I'm concerned, the process has started all over again. We first need to assess all the health factors that all these other countries that have banned it have brought up. And ask ourselves, is this what we need now? Or should we focus on perfecting our own agriculture? What are the advantages of that? What can we do in our own capacity now? Can we build cold storage to allow food that's growing in the north to be able to come to the south? To increase the income that comes to farmers in Nigeria? What can we do to better our lot at the moment? And simultaneously, how can we increase our own capacity intellectually in science in Nigeria? After that, we can then start to have that conversation. And I still stand by this. Until our minister that is signing this bill, until our senators that are signing this bill, until our president that is signing this bill stays in Nigeria for medical checkups, we have no business pursuing technology where people that have created it have, gone so far with their own healthcare, with their own educational system. We don't. It's like putting the cart before the horse. You're just going to go nowhere fast. And it's just a scam for people to make a lot more money, create a dependent economy where they can sell a lot of their things, especially with the negative backlash that's coming against this all around the world. For who to declare, for WHO, the World Health Organization, to declare that these products are carcinogenic, that is going to really strike a blow. And then the aim will be to get into economies that are not as exposed or will not ask as many questions, and to have stooges there to facilitate their business. That's basically the beginning and end of it. So as far as I'm concerned, our civil society is going to pursue this in court for consumer protection, and we're going to chase it to the end. It's just that simple. We're not going to deal with something that's already corrupted.
No relationship between biotechnology and agriculture.
No. The end will be creating a system that is for Nigerians, by Nigerians, that looks out for the interests of the Nigerian people.
Domestication of biotechnology.
Not for profit organizations.
What are you proposing for the domestication of biotechnology?
Like I said, in terms of biotech, there are many...
In agriculture?
In agriculture. For me right now, I don't feel Nigeria is ready for biotech in agriculture. I firmly believe that there is a lot of work to be done with our own natural agriculture. Let's take it there first. Because I've lived in England, I've lived in America. People want natural foods. So why are we all of a sudden trying to make artificial foods when we've not gone far enough with our stuff? So.
In all fairness, you look at someone like Akim Adesina, the Minister of Agriculture, widely traveled, learned in terms of where he's worked also too, being at Rockefeller, also IITA, is also held. very important positions in the continent in terms of tropical agriculture, and then has an ambitious plan to drive away hunger, not only from Nigeria, but the entire continent, running for the head of the African Development Bank. He's a man with plenty of foresight. Look at what he's done in the agricultural sector. And then in this hope to ensure that we have food sufficiency, he decides to head up in this direction. Does have some insight into exactly what he thinks he wants to do, for example. What's your reaction to that?
Well, I think Additional has done a number of things. You know, there's a lot of playing to the media, as far as I'm concerned. You read articles from the former Minister of Agriculture that questions the numbers that our minister throws into the media. And more importantly, you know, when people are exposed and they go to all these wonderful Ivy League schools, work in these institutions, the World Bank, Rockefeller, you have to question, when somebody has been in a place for 10 years and they come back to Nigeria, whose interests are they actually looking out for? This is a very important question that we as Nigerians have to think about when we're hiring these people. Yes, it's good to hire people that are educated and have all this exposure, but whose interests are they working for? The Rockefeller are key proponents of GMO. They are. So, as far as I'm concerned, like I said, I've debated the minister, and you can read the article online.
I see.
His response to my questions were nonsensical for me, because they did not answer anything. They were just dancing around the topic. Because if you cannot explain to me why Japan, the 6th of the biggest industrialized economies in the world, have key regulations against this and are working consistently to ban it even more, then we just cannot start a conversation. The countries that you named are countries that people can exert pressure on. For instance, you give a person a loan, like as they did in Ukraine 3 months ago, and a key aspect of the loan is that you allow these companies in. They give aid, like the Alliance for Agriculture or something, and a key aspect of it is these companies must come in. If not, you don't get this money. You know? So that is why you see these things in Mexico, in South America, in Argentina, because they are desperate. They need these funds. And then you even see from WikiLeaks articles that have come out where American businessmen, American legislatures are talking about punishing countries that do not accept these companies to come in. With the amount of information out there now, you know, it is inexcusable that our Senate is passing bills like this. It is just not in the interest of our country. It's not. And they have not even gone. If our minister can say, listen, we've tried everything we can. We've increased the help to our farmers. We've provided logistic systems. We've provided transportation systems. These are all the things we've done, and we still need more. Then we can have that conversation. Until then. All
right, we're going to take a break. It's an important subject. Biosafety law matters arising. Of course, we're looking at GMOs. An important aspect of that law deals with agriculture, food sufficiency. Does it do the job or does it not? Take a break, come back and discuss some more.
It's Today on STV.
It's not just about the hard stuff, but on updates on the fast-moving entertainment industry in Nigeria and beyond. It's Today on STV. We'll make it real and easy 5 days a week. Interesting, mind-blowing interviews and analysis. I'm Victoria Pepple. It's Today on STV, taking your morning straight up.
It's Today in STV.
All right, welcome back. Discussion still ongoing. Biosafety law, where does it take us to? We're talking still with Gbadebo Rhodes-Vivour, public policy analyst, and we're looking at matters arising after that bill was passed into law last month. We will throw up on the lines at some point in time. So remember, when the numbers start to scroll on the screen, you can call. Remember, turn down the volume of your TV set. Non-organic, or what's the other one?
Organic or non-GM?
No, non-GM and non-organic. People want to know, for example, if I want to know the product I'm buying, the end product, if it's an organic product or if it's a GM product. It's a way to identify and then have a choice to make.
Yeah. Well, in America, they are fighting to achieve that. It's proving a very tough fight. I mean, even the people like in Vermont that voted to have their things labeled are being sued by these same companies to stop that from happening currently in America. Why? Because once you label things, people will go for the natural product.
Even though the non-GM does look better, it's always fresher and nicer.
It's fresher. Well, I won't say it's fresher, actually. It might look bigger.
It has a longer shelf life, bigger, yes. It just looks juicier, sort of.
Well, the taste will not be as natural. That's why, for instance, like tomatoes, there were genetically modified tomatoes a while ago that went out of business because it just could not get that tomato taste. Now, like I said, people look out for profit. Okay, a long shelf life is good for the people selling. But what does that long shelf life do in your stomach? If your body is built to break down food in a certain way, is used to a certain type of food. You come and put food that has been modified and you put it in that system, it's dealing with something completely different. That's why some people even tell you that the cows that are being eaten in America are a different set of cows. Because, for instance, you have cows that are used to eating grass. They walk around. In America, you have them all in pens eating corn, seeds of corn. And then when you open the
2 for the price of one, a cow that eats corn. It's really healthy.
when you open the cow up, you see a lot of infection, a lot of disease. Some of them cannot even stand. There are a lot of documentaries that I've seen on that. And then you eat these things and everybody is talking about red meat is bad, meat is bad. But that's because this is a different type of meat.
Okay, now let me ask.
You're an environmentalist also too, because architecture and all of them all fall under the School of Environmental Studies. Tell me something. Increasing pressure for the use of land means that we cannot have land like we used to for farming. So, Mr. for example, says we have to think of ways of moving away from subsistence farming to mechanized farming and look at other areas we can push for dealing with food sufficiency. If you take all of this into consideration, you draw up your analysis trying to see how significant the fact that wastage has actually resulted in the loss of food, not necessarily because we don't have enough in supply. What do you think are the major factors here? Is it no land or storage? Of course, and the last one, dealing with it with technology.
Okay.
Which do you think is the more significant approach in dealing with this issue?
Let me first give you a fact. All the human beings in this world can fit in New Zealand with the density of New York. If you've been to New York, it's not that dense. It's not like Pueblo. So that's the amount of land that we have on this planet. There's a lot of land. Now, there are a lot of innovative uses of land, like permaculture, things where you build in towers, right? Which is something that can be done in BIO-SAFETYBILL, you know? People complain that we can't plant things in BIO-SAFETYBILL, but There are people in urban developments that are building on their roof, and people are building like old garages, old stores that have been decommissioned, or people have moved out of there. They've turned it into vertical farms. So land in itself is not depreciating, is not. I think also people just have to be less myopic. What's the point of building everything and you cannot eat? The government should be able to say that, okay, this is the amount of land that we are putting aside for agriculture, and there should be no land pressures or economic pressures on that land. That is the land that we need to eat. That is the major thing that a human being needs. You don't need phone, clothes. If you don't eat, you die. Right? So food is very, very important. Good food is very, very important. Food that nourishes the body and contributes to your health is very, very important.
Let me ask another question. While you're completely knocking biotechnology on agriculture, we have a caller from Lagos, so I'll hold that thought. John is on the lines from somewhere in Lagos. John.
I can't hear.
Hello?
All right, please go on, John.
The thing about this biotechnology, I want to agree with what the speaker is saying. The truth of the matter is that Nigerian agriculture requires much more than technology. I don't think we should be there at this point in time. Over 30% of the food produced in Nigeria gets waste in transportation. There's so much wastage in agriculture. We do not have an agricultural board. How can we harness possibilities for farmers in far-flung areas? How you do not have a commodities board. How do you protect farmers? You say you're giving them fertilizer. Things are growing and they are wasting away, and you're fertilizing, and you're going in a direction that we cannot say that to go technology or to go Western is bad. But are we at that level? Why are we exposing our nation to people who just want to come and take commercial advantage of us?
All right, thank you, John.
Food all over the place is wasting in transportation. If you go on an express road, there are trailers overturned with tomatoes, there are no good roads. How can you have a focused agricultural policy when the so-called subsistence farmers are not connected to in a manner, in a grade where they can take, if you produce 10 tubers, 50 tubers, there should be a central agricultural board in certain regions of the nation where these prices are standardized, storage is taking place. You know, we need to get to that level before you start coming to give us some genetically modified crops that are just profit-driven initiatives by international companies to take advantage of people that don't really know what they are doing.
Exactly.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much, John, for your contribution.
All right, I was going to ask, you're completely knocking biotechnology, but in a bid to understand it better and to domesticate it, can we have a situation where these are grown side by side by organic foods? Is that healthy?
It cannot work because of something called contamination. Because of wind drift, pollen from biotechnology modified plants go to the natural varieties, and then those ones become contaminated. There are a lot of cases in America now where organic farmers are suing GMO farmers because their plants have been contaminated. And if you label something as organic and it's tested in a lab and it says that this is GMO, then you are a fraud. Because in America, organic food now is like a rare commodity, it's a resource. So everybody is looking at that very carefully. So even these companies that are coming, and that's why I talk about this NABDA thing again, as I stand on it, that is a sham, because they cannot control the wind.
Okay, I'm sorry to interrupt you here, because we have a caller also from Lagos again. Ihuoma, please go ahead.
Hello, good morning.
Great, good morning. Go on, please.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We can hear you. Go on.
Yeah, thank you for this topic, and thank you for your guest with his knowledge on the topic. All I want to know is that our land, the land in Nigeria, is it not eatable? One. Two, like he said, have we been able to install storages where the food produced in Nigeria is stored and save the waste I know it's not the question you have to answer, but if possible to bring people in the Ministry of Agriculture to come and counteract what he said and give us the understanding of what is going on, so that we'll have a balance. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Iwama. We'll definitely do that.
Yeah, that would be a good idea. Like I said, our land is very rich. I mean, even in urban areas, in Lagos, you can throw corn or yam on the road, on the street, just take it little. 3 months later, you come and shooting, you know. So we don't need this. We don't need this. We just need to make our own system a lot more efficient.
All right. Okay, I'll take this last one. I'll talk about the fact that I wanted to know whether the farmers here, I remember how we all clapped and applauded giving handsets, several thousand, millions of them, thousands of them, to pass across information on how they can improve their agricultural practices. It was such a big news at that point in time. Are their jobs secured if you have this GMO in place?
No. Why? Because this GMO method is basically on the path of just photocopying the American system and bringing it to Nigeria. Where one farmer owns 10,000 hectares, he has about maybe 10 tractors, and he goes back and forth and harvests this, and, you know. Nigeria is fed by smallholder farmers. There is no reason why we cannot think about ways to adapt technology to our own use. There is no reason why a smallholder farmer cannot become wealthy from farming. Like I said, organic products are selling 4 times as much as GMO in America. This can be a very viable export opportunity. There is no reason why we cannot have tractors that cater to communities and is shared. There's no reason why we cannot harvest things in a timely fashion and take to a storage facility so it does not rot on the farm or on the way to the city, right? So
biotechnology promises no rot.
Biotechnology promises no rot.
So
I agree with that, but at the same time, biotechnology cannot guarantee what that product will do in your body.
All right. So we're speaking to Gbadebo Rhodes-Vivour, representing Civil Society Group, Nigeria, against GMO.
Yeah.
So we've been talking extensively on the new biosafety law and how much it would affect Nigeria and Nigerians. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Of course, this is just the first part of the discussion. It's an ongoing discussion. We'll bring the pro-GMO people, or GMO rather, sponsors of this bill, to see this act and this law, to see, to give us some answers to nagging questions from people, Nigerians and all. Thank you again very much for the show, Gbadebo Rhodes-Vivour. We'll be back tomorrow to continue the discussion on all the major issues making the day.
I was barely 5 years old when he touched me the ways I could not understand.